Hello, everyone, and happy little gray day over here. We are just going to give it a couple of seconds so folks can log in. If this is your first time with us, hello, my name is Sadie Arrieta, and I'm the media producer for the Los Angeles Regional SBDC Network. The SBDC is a national program with over 1,000 locations across the country, helping to stimulate economic growth through business advising and development. The LA SBDC offers no-cost services through funding provided by the U.S. Small Business Administration, SBA, and from the California Office of the Small Business Advocate. It's your tax dollars at work. The Los Angeles Regional SBDC Network operates 7 service locations throughout Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. Our services are also offered virtually. We are here to help. We empower small business owners by offering tailored solutions through personalized one-on-one business advising, cutting-edge workshops, and comprehensive programs, all provided at no cost. We are dedicating to supporting your entrepreneurial journey every step of the way. So on that note, Lori, I'm excited because I think we almost started the interview before we actually started the show.
We did. We started without you guys. I was like, "Oh my god, we gotta get started." I gotta tell you, I'm really excited about today's show. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be entertaining. It's just a lovely story. So, without any further ado, let me get through the things that I always discuss at the very beginning. I got a couple announcements for you guys, as well as an announcement of all the people that are coming on in the month of May, which, of course, I'm gonna say this month of May. Where did April go? Where did February go? I don't know. Okay, we got the financial literacy series. We got the legal webinar. I renamed it because people didn't always understand what legal structures meant. So I'm calling it very specific to what it is. Sole prop, LLC, S Corp, which one and why? Can't be more specific than that. So that's coming up in May as well. And as always, Sadie's putting the link in chat in case you want to join. Here's my full May lineup, guys. I got it all lined up already. So next week, we've got Elizabeth Stoltz. She has Body Language LA, an acupuncturist. I really am interested in learning more about her company from what she does, but also from the fact that it's a service-based company, and many of you guys are service-based company. So it's a good opportunity to learn what it takes to operate this type of business model. Then we got Kevin coming on from Veritas Consultants. He's a management consultant, and I thought it would be great to have him come on and give some words of wisdom on how to run a successful small business or anything that he wants to share to help us to succeed. Nadine is coming on, and guys, I have been trying to get a lawyer to come on the show for 3 years. I thought lawyers just didn't like me. They wouldn't come on my show. I wanted a lawyer to come on and talk about patents and trademarks and all kinds of things. Asked a ton, got no's. We got a lawyer coming on finally that we can ask some pertinent questions about trademarks, patents, etc. So really exciting to have Nadine on the show. And at the end of the month, we're going to finalize it with Johnny that owns Mantra Coffee. This is a great story as well. So like I said, we got a full on lineup coming up, which is so exciting. Now, I do want to make a little technology mention. When you're using the chat, be sure to hit everybody versus host and panelist. So often, because Zoom does host and panelist by default. And I'm looking in the chat and I'm seeing these beautiful, beautiful statements back and forth of communicating amongst yourself, but I'm the only one getting to read them. So do make sure when you're communicating with everybody, or if you just want to send a message to host and panelist, you can do that as well. Okay, with no further ado, let's get into today's show. So, 7 years has passed since Marcela Arrieta, a Mexican entrepreneur with a dream, started a small project called Majestic Bliss Soaps. Marcela said that she is proud to have built with her husband a project that could leave to her children and to the country as an inheritance while uplifting the Hispanic community by showing the contributions they can make to the United States. Majestic Bliss Soaps was born in the garage of Marcela's house, where she conducted her experiments and research to make high quality vegan soaps, combining her deep knowledge of pranic healing with her passion for natural essences that help people that enjoy her products to get balanced and well-being. Welcome to the show. Welcome, Marcela and Plinio. Thank you for being here. I mean, guys in the audience, just reading that, it begs the question of, I want to know more on this story. And that's when, so I started working with these guys because of the fires, going through the loans. And as I started to work with them, I'm like, oh my God, we got to get them on the show. We got to hear the story. So welcome, welcome. I just want to leave the floor to you guys. Start at the beginning. I know we're going to have to go fast track and leave out some components, but I have to say, you probably, I'm guessing here, I bet you had some entrepreneurship in your family lineage as well.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't even know that. I didn't read that, but I just got this belief. So, where were you inspired? Did we, even before you started your dream, where did you get the inspiration to have a dream?
Well, for me, it was growing up with my grandmother and mother. So my mom was a single mother, and we all lived in the house with my grandparents in Mexico. And I remember from a very young age just seeing my grandmother just be very proactive about everything. There was never a problem per se. If there was an obstacle, she would figure things out. She wouldn't just give up and say, well, it's not possible, or I'm scared it's not going to work. No, there was always a way to do things. It might not be as fast as we typically want, but it happened. Long story short, my mom and I came to the United States in 1983. And one of the very first things that my mom would do is go to downtown, Los Callejones, or the alleys, to purchase wholesale products. She would bring them back home and sell them to the neighbors. So from a very, very young age, I was submerged in this entrepreneurship lifestyle. And that's really where it grew on me. I don't think it grew on me. I think it's just part of who I am. It's part of my chromosomes, my genes. It's just who I am.
I love that story. I grew up, I always share with the audience, I grew up in the country and we had mom and pop shops, but we didn't use the word entrepreneurs. And I didn't even think there was anything special. I just thought that's the way you did life. And I find that people that come from that background have a much greater success rate starting a small company because they don't have this belief that they're going to get an idea, open the company, and tomorrow they're going to be a big success and they're begin selling internationally.
Right.
That's the nonsense I hear from the young ones, right? Because they're being told that. But it's really a progression of slow steps, one by one. So you started with experiments in your garage. And you were looking for something, obviously. You had this pranic healing, which help us to understand what that is. But when you were experimenting in the garage, what were you hoping to create?
Well, pranic healing is a no-touch modality. We work with your energy to help us reach a state of relaxation, emotional balance, so on and so forth. And through that practice, my holistic therapy practice, a lot of my clients were saying, hey, I feel fantastic. What can I do once I leave your office? And of course, I would say, well, meditate, relax. And Lori, they would look at me and say, girl, I live in the real world. Once I step outside, stuff will happen. So that got me thinking. And through a meditation, I started asking, what can I do? What can I create? Keep in mind that I come from this creative background, this entrepreneurship, this get things done background. And all of a sudden, I have this idea to make soap. I started laughing because soap, I mean, like, really? How am I going to make soap? And of course, that's what Google's for. One thing left to another. I took classes, courses, and I figured, holy moly, making soap is not just making soap. It's chemistry. And I flunked chemistry in high school, by the way. So I was really worried. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to blow up the garage. But that's really how I got into this whole soap. I did almost get into the soap making field, was by that wanting to help people feel better, and through aromatherapy and natural ingredients and so on and so forth.
You know what's fascinating? Your story is so similar to many where they set out on a pathway doing one thing, and then all of a sudden they're overdoing this thing as a side, and then suddenly that becomes the main pathway they go to, which is such a good lesson to those who say, well, you're supposed to decide by 20 that this is what you're going to do the rest of your life, or since you started the company, it should always be that way. That keeps us from looking at the subtle cues that are coming our way that gives us direction. So, Sadie, Sadie, before we go a second more, can you share the two links? Guys, you got to see these products, because if we continue to talk about them without showing you, you will not see how beautiful, absolutely beautiful these products are. So Sadie, we're going to continue to talk, but if you get a second, here it comes. Guys, look at these. Tell us what we're looking at here, Marcella.
Oh, piece of art. No.
Yeah, you are. No, I agree with you on that. It is a piece of art.
It's art that you could use on your body. And you know what? Our skin is the largest organ of the body, and we need to treat it right. We don't think about our skin as that. So we tend to apply these products that are ultimately and can be harmful on the skin. So what we created is a bar of soap, which I don't really like to say it's just a bar of soap, because as you can see, it's
No,
not just a bar of soap.
no.
It's art, but it's made with a lot of ingredients like shea butter, coconut oil, castor oil, natural botanicals that nurture the skin. And then here's the other thing, aromatherapy. Aromatherapy is huge when it comes to our well-being. If we inhale lavender or rose essential oil or some other fragrance that we like, we tend to feel better. We feel relaxed. Same is the opposite. If there's an aroma that brings memories that are not so
Yeah.
pleasant, then we tend to feel more on the angry or depressed side, or those kind of emotions and thoughts. So we really did set out to create a work of art, and we are so proud of it. Now, what you see now is just the tip of the iceberg. We are redoing our catalog, we are redoing our soaps, and very soon you will see new presentations, new names, and I couldn't be prouder of what we have accomplished, because it took us a while to develop the new aromas and the new looks.
These are beautiful. I love the goat on the goat cheese. I love on the
Right.
goat soap. That is just so,
And
so.
dog
And the
soap,
menopause.
Lori.
Oh, I love it.
Why not? That was inspired by our dog Gonzo. He passed away 2 years ago. He had skin, excuse me, skin allergies. He loved the grass. He loved to roll in it. But when he would come back inside, he was just flared up. And I figured, hey, if we're helping human skin, why not help
Yeah.
dog skin? So there you go.
Absolutely. Sadie, thank you for showing that, because it really gives a view of it. So I just want to say it's just so beautiful and so amazing to look at your products. And I actually want to ask one more thing, and then we're going to go back and start
Sure.
over. So you're selling on the website, but you're also selling in retail. So just give the audience a quick look of where you are now, and then we're going to go back and we're going to fill in the little spaces of how you got where you are now.
You want to share that part?
No, go ahead.
He likes to be in the background, so we actually had to drag him in for this.
Yeah,
So
we did, guys, and I did. I wanted him to be on the show, because I have to say what we were talking about before the show. I was telling them this as I was going through, and we'll talk about this in a bit, but as we were going through filling out the loan documents, I would be asking a question like, "So when did you change from an S corp?" Marcella would kind of look and go, hubby," and then hubby would pull out in the perfect file this document and bring. I told them the way they work together is just simply adorable. But we're also going to get into one of the things that Marcella shared, is knowing who does what and who's good at what. But yes, we're lucky to have hubby on today. I thought he was going to hide in his cubicle and not going to be here, but you have to be here to also remit the success of it. So tell me, what stores are you selling at? I want to give the audience the amount of platform and exposure you have. That way they can go, wow. And then they can be amazed by the fact that you started back here and how you got there. That's what the audience loves, is how did you get where I want to be? That's a lot of times the audience
Sure.
questions.
So we have three brands, Majestic Bliss Soaps, Bacra Goat's Milk, and Vida by Marcela. So Majestic Bliss and Bacra, they live within stores like Whole Foods markets in the southern region of California. Whole Foods goes by regions when it comes to local vendors like we are. We are in the process of expanding with them all of California and possibly more. So that's exciting news. We are in retail spaces like Lazy Acres Natural Markets, which is very similar to Whole Foods on a smaller scale. We're up north in New Seasons. I'm sorry, is it
New Leaf,
New Leaf?
New Seasons.
New Seasons. And so Vida lives at stores because of the demographic. Vida is more rooted in the Mexican culture, our Mexican culture. So the presentation is very different. That one lives within stores, Northgate Gonzalez Markets, and soon coming to Vallarta Supermarket. So we're super excited for that.
Well, okay, and I before we leave, I got to go through one thing else so I don't forget to mention this. So the word univision means something, doesn't it?
It sure does.
Tell us what that means and why am I saying that word?
We are in the process of recording an awesome episode. In Spanish, it's called Es Posible, which means it's possible. And their focus is on our entrepreneur journey, but not just the glitz and the glam of, this is where I started, this is where I am. And you mentioned earlier driving a Lamborghini, which by the way, we're not. But the point is, we're going to talk about the struggles, the real life entrepreneur journey, which is not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not for everyone, but it is possible. So that is coming to your screens very soon.
My God, you are such a great spokesperson. And what you just said is absolutely perfect because I want to now walk back and go back to the garage, where, of course, she almost blew up the garage, but didn't. So we're glad to know that. But, when you were talking about your mother buying the goods and selling them to the neighborhoods, one of the things I say all the time is there's no such thing as a small business anymore because I bet your mother didn't worry about Stripe and POS sales and internet and all that, even sales tax. She probably didn't worry about that kind of stuff, right? And so when people are starting companies today, I tell them, you know what? It's a whole new world that every small company has to now function like a large company right at the beginning. So take us through, I bet the soap didn't look like it does today as well. So let's go back to the experiment in the garage. You succeeded at creating a product. Where did you first go about trying to sell it?
Whole Foods. I did. You see, I did. I remember. I did, and you know what? The company was founded in February of 2014. It was February, and in May of that year, I remember telling a good friend of ours, Argo, one of our mentors, "Hey, I keep hearing Whole Foods and my product is going to be at Whole Foods." And our mentor, one of our mentors, he's a super successful entrepreneur, multi-millionaire. He lives full-time in Dubai. I mean, I'm just saying, right?
Oh, yeah. Good friend to have, good advisor to have.
So
Yes.
he's looking at me like this, and he says, "Oh, okay. And you just started this business from your garage." "Oh, yeah, it's gonna be a Whole Foods." He says, "Okay, when you get the contract, call me. I might want to, seed the project." "Okay, perfect." A few months later, "Hey, Argo, I got the contract." He says, "What?" Yep.
Okay, so this already is an unusual story. How in the world, because that's unusual, that doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But the other thing I have to say before I ask this, there is something magical in, can I just say, the universe, that one believes in something and puts it out there, every single thing is possible. And I can see that your energy, we're talking about energy and soap and stuff, but I'm a believer in energy. I can see your energy manifesting the impossible. But still, what steps did you take? Tell us how that came about.
Well, you have to be persistent. We can't just dream it and say, "I'm going to be in Whole Foods and sit on my butt all day." That's not how things work, you see? So that's the difference. That's a disconnect there. So we really have to see our dreams and our wishes as, yes, I want this. How am I going to make it happen, or a better version of, or a different version of it? So the fact that we're actually doing something about it, persistent. The local forager from Whole Foods at that time who was working with us, he says, "You call me every week, you email me every week, you're very persistent, and that is why," and I quote, he said this, "that is why I approved your brand, not just because it's a great product at that time, but because you are very persistent, and that is what we need."
I love what you just said because there's so many takeaways from that. Yes, persistence. Yes, it also takes a dream, but the actions and the follow-ups. And the fact is, if you had been persistent, you had taken the actions, You had a dream, but you didn't have a product that aligns with Whole Foods desires, you would not have gotten through. So often people focus on one of the aspects and they think if they just pound that one aspect that it's going to happen, but it has to be an alignment of many things. Years ago, I used to write, this was back in my 20s, I had this big sign on my desk that I said, intelligence times actions equals results, because you got to intelligently go about it and take actions, and you have to see when the results aren't working and try something else. You picked the right place, the right time, and the universe supported it, but it's a matter of always understanding when. I'm sure you had situations that you tried to achieve something and it did not work. Do you have any of them you can use an example so we can see a contrarian? And what I really want to learn is, how did you handle it when you did not work? Because I think that's the real spirit of what you're going to share now, is how you change your approach.
You see, that's going back to what we will get into, which is understanding your strengths, you know. And for me, I'm that creative, I'm that innovator, I am that dreamer. And I've learned over the years how to balance things. But initially it was, let's go, 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 let's get it done. And if I sell $5,000, that's fantastic. But what I was forgetting, and I did make this mistake initially, well, actually two major ones, is I really needed cash. So I went and got a loan, and it had, how much was that percentage? Do you remember?
100%.
Oh my God.
I didn't
I-
read the fine print. I could care less. It was like $3,000.
I
needed
literally
that
saw my soul coming out of my body. And
I
then
know
it came
you did
back,
take-
and I was like,
yeah.
why did you sign that?
Oh my God.
Like, well, I needed them out. Like, you know what? No, you need someone to handle your books.
This was before he came to work
Yes.
here. That was the first mistake. The second one, a good friend of ours said, hey, you know, I need soap. How much is it going to be? I'm going to need these many. So I said, okay, it's going to be this much. And, you know, eventually he sent the $5,000 check. I'm jumped $10,000 check. I was jumping up and down. And he sits down and he says, do you know how much it actually costs? And I said, no. So he sat down with me. Remember numbers?
Yep.
We were actually in the red. We didn't make a penny.
The profit was minus $700.
Guys, this is just so classic. If I could take this, you know, Univision is going to be so lucky to have you on, because this is, and Sadie knows, this is what I talk about all the time. Sadie, don't I talk about this all the time?
I mean, you got me talking about it now. Like, I randomly share this info with all my friends. This really is the gold.
This is because, you know, the creative, excited entrepreneur is just so happy to make a sale, not even realizing. And I have an expression, Plinio, I have an expression for what Marcela does, okay? What she did back then. I always say, oh, so you want to be more tired and more broke?
Pretty much. Yes. That's what
a
it
good one.
was.
Yes. Yes, that's a good one.
Oh.
Yeah. And I think, you know, as we know, like the chances of succeeding are small, are against new businesses.
Yeah.
Yep. 9 out of 10 in 10 years, they're gonna find a recession somewhere in between, or at the end, at the beginning, who knows where, but they're gonna have to deal with things that are basically like kind of like out of your control. And
right.
Prepare for that, they want to take you out of business. And I have never seen a business going out of business for lack of dreams.
Yep.
They all dream big, and they're dreaming and they're praying and they're doing everything. And yeah, that is good and it's needed.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the foundation, like you said, if you don't operate like a big business and you don't take the small things seriously, especially cash, anything to do with numbers, if
Yes.
you don't take that seriously, chances of you succeeding are going to be very slim. That's why we see a lot of times. I used to ask myself, hey, well, I'm going to talk about food. You have this great recipe, someone that sells something that we really like. Hey, we like to go to this place for their consomme. It's the best ever. Well, they're out of business. And then you see this restaurant that's been in business for 30, 40 years. You go try the food and it's not that good. Why? Well, whoever's running the business, they know what they're doing. And even if they don't have the best product, they still succeed. They're still in business. They're still profitable, and they're still going to be successful for the next who knows how many years.
For sure.
Because they know what they're doing business-wise. And it's not just about the dream. It's not just about the product. It's like what happens behind. It's like when you go see a play, and yeah, the play is really good, but what happens behind the curtains, and I mean, it's like a big operation. You need to make sure that you could do. If you're not familiar with what's happening behind, get someone that is familiar, that is gonna help you. Ask questions, watch videos, things like that. You need to cover all bases. You need to cover the money part. You need to cover the manufacturing. If you're manufacturing, how you're gonna produce the product, and then of course how you're gonna sell it. That's when Marcela is really good at dreaming, creating. But then you need to have someone behind who's gonna run the numbers, and who's gonna run the operation efficiently. Because if you don't do those things, then it's like having one table with just one single leg. It's gonna fall.
Yeah, well,
So you need to make sure you have at least three really strong, and then right away start working on the fourth one.
yeah.
Now, Plenia, what's your background? How did you come to understand the need to know the cost? Because I know it sounds like something everybody should understand, but I am always flabbergasted by the amount of small companies that when I say, how much does it cost to produce? They can maybe tell me one item, but they don't even think they need to know that for all their SKUs. How did you come upon such wisdom? What's your background to know
My
that?
background is manufacturing. I spent many years in manufacturing, but I will say everything started from I left my home when I was 18. I came to the United States and I started working. So you learn how to manage a budget at a very early age, because I was on my own. No one's going to pay my bills. No one's going to pay my rent. That was the beginning of me wanting to learn more about money management. And I became good because of the need to
Yeah.
do, and I didn't stop. I was like, as you can see, my English is not even perfect, but it didn't stop me from going to community college as an adult and taking classes. And I was just cherry picking. You know what? I want to learn this. I want to learn that. And that helped me throughout my career. I became part of management at different companies. Most of the time, I was in distribution and manufacturing and school. That's the best way that you
Higher
can get.
education.
That doesn't mean that you have to work for a company and be working on projects and pricing and that. No, just go to community college. It's close to free. Most likely it's free, or $30, $40 for a class. And what you're gonna gain from that class is priceless. If you invest in yourself, you're gonna get the best result. This is the best investment you can do in your company. Invest in yourself. Of course, you need to manage your time, and you need to go to class and be dedicated to what you're doing. Take one at a time. That's what I recommend, because it's hard to manage family and work and it's in school at the same time. But one class at a time, educate yourself, and that's the best way that you're gonna learn. And then little by little, trial and error, you will apply your knowledge, but that will take you 80% of the way. The other 20% is just as you go, you're gonna practice what you learn, and you'll be good to go.
You know what I love about what you're saying, and is just making me as happy as can be to be able to present this to the audience. I find that the biggest success comes from being practical and common sense. And that's what a lot of small entrepreneurs and young entrepreneurs are missing, because they're on social media or they're going through universities as well. I got to say that. And they're being told on these big dreams, and I'm going to start this company. It's going to be international. It's going to be, they miss that the incremental little pragmatic steps is what builds a stable, consistent, long-standing foundation.
I see that as a climbing the ladder, and a lot of people, and especially now that we have instant gratification everywhere, a lot of people, they see their goal, and let's say it's like 10 meters high, and they're just jumping trying to reach, and no, I'm focusing, I'm laser focused on my goal, but they just jumping, they cannot reach it. Well, bring a ladder. Because when you bring a ladder, you're not going to go to step number 10. You need to take the first one.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I love that.
you don't sleep. You don't worry about the rest. Just work on the first step. Ignore everything else. Of course, look forward, make sure you're on your goal, but look at your step, make sure you're not going to fall. Once you have a good grip, then go to the second one, then go to the third. And I know it's tedious for a lot of people because they want to go to their ultimate goal immediately, but it's not going to happen. And if you try to skip some of the steps, big chances are just going to slip and you're going to fall. And then you need to start from scratch again.
Yeah. And I made that error, again, the creative, the innovator, things of that nature. You see the dream and you want that dream manifested as you dream it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that our brains work very different. So before this very successful company that we're speaking about now, Majestic Bliss Soaps, I did start many other businesses in a period of, I don't know, 10 years, and all of them epically failed. And they failed because there was not that foundation, that financial, that strategy that was missing. Me, I dreamt of a dream, let's get it done, and then to hell with the rest.
Yep,
And
yep.
those were very costly, very painful mistakes, but I learned from them.
Yeah, they go around and there's these statistics and they talk about and they go, X amount of small companies fail. Now that part is true, but then they say because they're underfunded. No, I don't believe that to be so. In
Yeah.
fact, there was a study that was done from one of the major universities that came away with really it was management's decisions, whatever we want to call management to be. And I think so many people fail because they don't have a well thought out business model and they don't understand exactly what it takes. Which brings me to where I want to go back. I want to make sure I don't forget this. So after she gave away, she almost burned down the garage, but then she gave away the house with the order and then, sold the house with the loan, right? So that's where we're at. But you did get this order from Whole Foods. Now, I could be wrong, but I got to believe there was some catch up in production because the company was probably not stable enough to produce the amount of products in that first or I gotta look. Okay, let's talk about when orders and production capacity don't match. Take the stage, guys. Tell us all about it.
You're the genius with that
it
one.
was it was
He's
it was
pausing.
it was like a pilot test. It was the only 10 stores, but still there was no system in place.
No.
Everything was one of my previous lives, like when I said I came to the States when I was young and I work in many different places. Once I was a cook. I was a dishwasher by boy
Okay.
and then a cook. And the first lesson that I learned, and actually the most important one, has nothing to do with cooking, is it was a small diner where when you were cooking, you have to prepare an egg Benedict and you have to prepare scramble at the same time. And everything needs to come at the same time for the order and you cannot burn anything. And the key is everything has to be in place and organized, clean, ready to go.
Yep.
5 seconds, that's I burned something. That's when it's overcooked. It's going to come back. So organizing things and creating flow on your work lines is the most important part.
Yeah.
That is
Totally,
something that is super, super easy. Like you said, it's mostly common sense. But if you want to learn something, just look for lean manufacturing. Lean manufacturing, you can watch a lot of videos on YouTube. I'm pretty sure there's got to be some classes that will teach you that. That's how I learned that. And that's something that you can apply not just in manufacturing, you can apply that on your daily life. Washing dishes, washing your clothes, organizing things, basically focuses on eliminating waste and making your processes more efficient without investing. That's the key. Without investing almost any money at all. It's just
Totally.
you changing the way you process your things. And that is really, really important. So with that order, the 10 orders, she used to
You weren't here yet, actually. He
but
didn't work here
one
yet.
day I
It was
I
me.
just walk in and I just silently just observing and like
Silently? I don't
and
think so.
in my brain I was doing something that is called an spaghetti chart that basically just follow the product from the beginning until the end. And that's why it's called an spaghetti chart, because the goal is to detangle the spaghetti and make a straight line so that it flows. She will go from one place to another, come back. So if you make a single line, that was like a bird nest. It was like crazy.
Oh, let me just add this. And in that spaghetti trail, he said, "Oh, by the way, you haven't thrown the trash out." Oh my God. I'm like, look, I have to make soap and you're sitting there asking me to throw the trash out, but I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't know he was doing this whole spaghetti straightening thing out, whatever it's called. But yeah, so when that was happening, the first 2 years from having had that contract with Whole Foods, he wasn't working here full time. He still had his full-time job, and he would stop at the warehouse because it's on the way home after work, and he would just kind of start analyzing and suggesting things. And when you suggest it to creatives, it's like, I'm sorry, but my domain is mine, not yours. Thank you very much. I totally regret that. But that's really that is what happens.
That
Yeah.
reminds me of that program. What it was, I think it was called Restaurant Impossible or something like that. There was someone that is like a guru, business guru, goes in and analyzes the businesses. And 99% of the time, the owners are like mad and unhappy because someone wants to change the way they do things. And unless you're open to change, things are not going to work.
That is correct. I agree.
And that's and your business will fail if you're not profitable. I don't care if you have how much funding. Like I can give you $1 million. Well, it's $1 million that you will mismanage and waste. So
Oh,
it's gonna be even worse. I would rather have $1,000 than if I mismanage $1,000, good. But it's not about the funding, like you said. It is needed, the funding, of course. But how you gonna manage that is more important. And it is to me, I think it's better to make mistakes on paper than out on the real world. And one of my philosophies is you give me an hour to chop a tree, I will spend 30 minutes sharpening the axe. And people want to do that. They want to right away jump and start doing things. No, take a
You're
step
gonna
back,
get hurt.
be patient, be very thoughtful of what you're going to do. Don't think of what the impact that is going to have today, but the impact is going to have in a year, in 5 years. Do I really want to do that? Do I really want to spend my money on this or not? And that is something that is really going to help your chances, and it's going to increase the chances of you being successful.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I am so in love with you guys. Okay, so you have said so much that is of great wisdom that I just want to come back and talk about a few. I always say that I don't care if you're a 1 or 2 person shop, you need to have processes, systems, and you need to have documentation, because if you grow, get the order, and you don't have the systems in place, it's going to be chaotic. Then you can't fill the order and it becomes a nightmare. Okay, Plinio, your spaghetti thing. Years ago, 20 years ago, I was doing this turnaround, CFO turnaround for this $20 million company. And first thing I did was I went in and tried to track the communications and processes. And I had different colors, and I called it, I'm not making this up, I called it a spaghetti diagram.
Wow,
I
right?
took the spaghetti diagram to the CEO and the president and said, your company is failing because you are wasting dollars every day on mismanaging your human capital, your employees. I unraveled that spaghetti diagram. It was a big company. Over a course of a year, they went from losing 300,000 per year to making 500,000 in year
Wow.
4 by
That's
unraveling the spaghetti diagram and getting better customers and becoming profitable. And what I've said repeatedly to the audience, you cannot sell yourself out of a bad business model. Out of, like you said, if you're not making profit, you get $1 million, you basically are paying your customers to buy from you, is what you end up doing.
Yeah.
That's true.
You're subsidizing yourselves.
Yeah.
And yeah, that spaghetti charge reminds me, I think it was Western Union. They did something similar too. And it doesn't have to be just about the product. This applies to services,
Everything.
applies, like you say, to communication internally, like handling paperwork, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That works for everything. And their process was to bring new customers, like, oh, you want a Western Union booth or whatever they used to have back in the days. You needed to fill an application. That application needs to go to this other person. Then it goes there. So
Waste.
it was like all over the place.
Yep.
Someone went in and just streamline it.
Funnels. Yeah.
And in no time, they tripled their business. And they didn't invest any money. They just changed the way they were working.
Yep.
So the internal processes are very, very important. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. A lot of times is you just analyze bigger companies, see how they operate, and just do a mini-me of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm going to try. I don't have a big finance department. Well, but I can have a file cabinet when I can have money in, money out, organized by month. There you go. You're doing the same thing at a smaller scale. And I spent $30 on a used cabinet and maybe $20 on file folders, and you're good to go. I mean, you don't have to invest a lot of time. You just have to change the way you're thinking and be open to apply things that you're not familiar with, and to bring people that is going to help you and mentor you if you don't have the knowledge or the skills needed to make it happen.
Yeah.
This is just, it's one of my most beautiful conversations that has the richest information all in one setting. You would think that I paid you guys to say this because you're literally saying the things I say on a weekly basis. I did not pay them to say this. Okay, guys, that's why I'm so excited hearing it. Now, one of the things that I'd like to focus on next, and it follows with your story, I'm kind of like digging your story out as I'm seeing things. So you get where you're finally selling things profitable. You took the trash out and cleaned up the spaghetti chart, right? But as you know, business doesn't grow nicely. Suddenly you get more orders than you have people, and then all of a sudden you get more people than you have orders, then you don't have the cash to invest. So what people always want to understand is, how did you like then go from you're in the garage, you got the Whole Foods order, but now you got to hire some people, and then maybe you move out of the garage? Can you walk through how that business growth happened and what you learned that you had to manage during that growth, financially, operationally, sales, etc.? Give us some more wisdom on that process.
Yeah, when we signed with Whole Foods, one of the conditions was we had to move out of the garage. We couldn't operate from a
Yeah.
garage. We had to be in a manufacturing space. So it's like, oh, great, cherry on top, like,
Yeah.
okay. So we invested our own personal money into this new
Yep,
space
yep.
that we
Because it
were
takes money. And, I always tell people that everybody thinks you at that moment, all you had to do is go to the bank, show them how great you were, and they were ready to hand you money, right? And then you had investors knocking on your door. Okay, I'm being, sarcastic because this is what people think. You know what I always tell from being a banker before? Okay, this is Lori's line. Do you know how small companies grow? Friends, families, and fools.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
For me, it was all of the above. Initially, it was our own personal money,
Yes.
family and friends.
And I've seen a lot, because we actually at one point I was like checking the competition. I was
Yep.
like, oh, learn about the competition. So we were scouting one day, and something that I saw, it was like they never left their garage.
Yeah,
You will go see their operations, and it's just
mess.
a big garage
Yep.
all over the place. I was like, that's not an
And they're no
operation.
longer in business.
So you can go to a different place, you can get a warehouse, but if you don't live the garage mentality, it's not going to work. You have to scale up in a way that you have to think more like and this is when it comes to getting educated. I mean, take community college classes.
Yeah.
Don't go for a degree like me. The counselor was like, no, you need to take English, and that's like, I don't have time for that. I know my English is bad, but forget it. I don't have time for
It's
that.
enough.
I want to learn business.
Work.
I want to learn
Yep.
numbers and this and marketing, blah, blah, blah. So cherry pick your classes, and you have to leave the garage behind.
Yeah.
That
Yep.
was the first step. You're past the first.
And that was a
ladder.
commitment.
Now you go to
Yeah.
the next one, and it's different. So take what you learned from the first one, but leave it behind. Don't
Yeah.
bring that with you.
Yeah. One of the things that I learned through investing in my education was businesses, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, Lori, businesses have a lifespan like a human being does. So it goes from inception, which is,
Yeah.
you think about it, then you have a newborn, then you have this, then you have that. So each stage will require a different kind of investment in your company. For example, in the stage that we're in right now, it's a teenage company per se, in a human view. So what happens when you have a teenager around? They're grumpy, they're hormonal, they eat a lot, so they need a lot of investment, they need a lot of attention, they grow very fast, so you need to invest in their clothing. Obviously, we're not investing in clothing in the company, but the comparison is it's expanding, it's growing as a teenage human would, and it requires a lot of investment, a lot of eyes on things, because it's it could be swayed easily either or, because it's in this volatile hormonal stage.
And I think at that
Great analogy. Yeah, continue,
something
please.
that is really important that on this, well, any stage, but especially this one, structure. If you have a teenager without structure to create good habits, to create good routine is going to turn into good habits. And if you don't create that structure right now,
Haywire.
you will regret it down the road, because then it's going to be a little problem is going to turn into a huge problem. And you don't want to deal with that. So this is the time, I mean, preferably from the beginning.
Yeah.
But this is as far as you want to go. Here,
Without structure.
without a structure, you need to have everything in order. Everything needs to have a place. Like for me, the way I like it is everything needs to have a place. And there's also going to be a place for things without a place, but now they have a place, like the lost and found, right? There's always
The junk drawer.
this doesn't fit with this, doesn't fit with anything. Well, there's going to be a cabinet or something that is for things that don't fit anywhere. So if they don't have a place, well, now they do have a place with things that don't have a place, but everything needs to be organized.
And he's not joking. So before we log off, I'm going to show you the structure back there.
Not yet.
That's perfect.
It's good. Even work in progress, it's good. I did a test one time. I kind of dislodged one of the boxes on purpose. It was about this far out from the what is it? ¿Cómo se llama esa cosa? The rack. There you go. And I told one of the people that were there, watch what's going to happen. So Plinio comes walking in and he's talking. Then all of a sudden he goes, da, da, and he fixes it. And I go, I knew he was going to have an eagle eye. I did it on purpose. So
oh my God, I got to share something because that's so funny. So I have this thing where everything has to be organized and processed in a place. And I always blamed it on the fact that I'm all German, right? So that's just part of, the German mindset. Yeah. But I had a boyfriend back when I was like in my 30s, as he would go in, because my house was like that. He would take like an ornament I had or some little knickknack, and he would turn it ever so slightly to see how long it would take for me to freak out and turn it. And I would notice right away. I'd come in the room and I'm like, something doesn't feel right.
Yes.
And the person I told, she said, nah, he's not gonna catch it. I'm like, trust me, he's gonna catch it. Because this thing is like, it was at the far end. He comes in, he's talking, and as he's still talking, he's walking down that rack, and he's like, he puts it back in, and like, it's this far out, but it's not straight,
Well, I got to say, hallelujah, 2 words we're talking about that don't get talked about enough: structure and discipline. Marcela, you have to be disciplined to not go off and sell the house and be too creative, and keep your creative and be disciplined. And Plano, you're very good about keeping the structure. And it's the two together that, because when you have structure and discipline, you also, and let's speak to this, I'm going to use a word and you take whatever word, but it's the one come to my mind. When you have structure and discipline, your focus becomes so laser that you become to get an awareness, and you get feedback, and you notice is the word I like. You notice what's with the customer. You notice what's with production. You notice what's with competitors, and you're not out there just, okay, and you're like an elephant in a china shop. You're literally being like a pilot on a plane, being able to make adjustments as you're flying through. I can tell from your body language, you know what I'm talking about. Let's speak on that. Take it, guys.
Yes, and I think that there's a misconception that when someone focuses a lot on structure, that you basically lose focus of the big picture, right. And I think it's the total opposite.
Yep.
Once you micromanage things and you learn them really good and know where everything is placed, even if you step up, like step back and you see everything as a whole, you see when something is not working. It's not that you get lost. At the beginning, you need to really hyper focus on little sections at a time to organize and create structure procedures. But once you have them, the procedures themselves would let you know when something is not followed or when something is not working. And most of the time, it's not going to be the procedure or the setup that is not working. Most likely, it's going to be the employees or the people that are not following the procedure.
I'll get it. Speaking of business, let me get the door.
Yeah.
Oh, please do. Please do. One of the things that I see, and these are the pet names I use for it, but you'll be able to explain it, is I see entrepreneurs, I call it, where they buy in to their own optimism and they become delusionally ignorant. So even if it's feeding it back that it's not working, they refuse to see it. It's like they won't acknowledge it. They'll just keep doing the same thing because they're just, I got passion. And I tell people, passion doesn't make you profitable. It gets you out of bed. Can you comment on why do you think they get so blindsided by their own optimism that they won't even adjust and they'll go all the way off the cliff?
I think that, once again, there's a lot of, we're in the era of information. If you see a lot of successful stories and people believe that that is the norm,
Yeah.
when in fact that's the 0.00001%, when someone creates Apple out of a garage and Microsoft and boo, voila.
Yeah, but they don't see the struggle that went behind that.
Even with the struggles, that is not the norm. So they believe that just by having a big dream and believing that they're gonna materialize it, that is enough to make it happen. And I will go back to the restaurant example, that you can have someone without the best idea, without the best product, but if they know how to do business, that's the business that is still operating. So to me, I will, and this is just my personal point of view, the structure and organizing and all that, that's the most important part of a business.
Yeah.
Even if I
Yeah.
don't have an idea, I will probably pick someone's brain and come up with something, but the structure is there to maintain the business alive. So the business will succeed. But if you have a great idea, but you don't have a structure or something, that's when you see a lot of dreams become nightmares.
Yeah, you need to bring people on board that will fill those gaps. And that doesn't mean minimize that person. One of our mentors, Joshua, also mentioned that, you know, you need to hire people who are way smarter than you are. And I wholeheartedly believe in that, because you bring different points of view, you bring different people to the plate, and that's just a recipe for success. That really is.
You know, one other area that I find interesting that I'd like to get your perspective on. So, as we started, you were talking about the different stores you were in Southern California and Northern California, and you could see that you've grown quite far from the original garage. But, and I'll explain what I mean by this. What you did not say is, we're selling all over the country, we're shipping internationally, we're doing all this. And I'll give you my reasoning I'm asking this. And it was something I've been talking about a lot with entrepreneurs. Many entrepreneurs are falling into the concept of social media or big corporations where they have to, you know, get market share from somewhere else. They have to be everywhere. They have to do everything. And to me, that is a recipe for disaster, because they're trying to believe that they have to get so much market share and so much sales that they're going over what they have, the resources, the knowledge, the money. And so they're basically failing because they're killing themselves financially, when they could have just done what I say: start locally and expand slowly. Comment on that.
That is the best thing that you could do. I was not a believer in that. In my early days of the business, I was like, okay, come on, we need to get something done. We need to get out there. We need to do this. We need to do that. And my husband would say, no, you know, we have to grow steadily, because if we grow too fast, too soon, it's a recipe for disaster. But the Marcela back then didn't comprehend that subject until I got ourselves into a 100% loan, of course, right? I realized, wait a minute, no loans are going to help us get to where I'm envisioning. The way that we could get there is really by strategy, by making sure that our product is what we're advertising, by making sure we take care of our customers, so on and so forth. So there is no fast way to things. We could give a million examples, but one that I could think of right now is, if you cut your hand, it doesn't matter how much hydrogen peroxide, how many band-aids you put on that cut, it's not going to heal overnight. It's a process. And same thing with business.
Yeah, and I'm a believer that growing out of control is worse than not growing at all.
Correct.
So it is very important that you grow, that the growth is planned. If your growth isn't planned, you're gonna react instead of prepare for what is coming, and chances of you doing more damage than good are gonna be very high. A lot of people fail also on that. Yeah, they bring customers, but you cannot fulfill the orders on time. You know what's gonna happen? You're gonna turn it. It takes years to create an image and a reputation, and it takes a week to destroy it completely. And coming from that one, good luck. So that's why for us, even bringing new customers, we need to make sure that everything is planned, the capacity is already there. You always need to be a step ahead of where are you heading. It's like, I'm gonna be this in next year. Well, I need to start preparing for that right now.
Yeah.
Not a year from now, not when I actually need it. You need to start working on things 3 to 6 months, sometimes up to a year before you're gonna implement those changes and before you're gonna start using those places. Here on the new warehouse, we have a rack that is gonna be empty. We prepare for new soap molds that are gonna come in probably 6 months from now, maybe by the end of the year, the earliest. But hey, we already have the floor plan. We already have the space for it. We already allocated the capacity for that.
Yeah.
And if you don't plan it, you don't think like that in the future, then you're gonna have issues. And the key here is this. All we know, accounting is basically looking at the past. But looking at the past, it was gonna help you predict and the future, because no one can predict the future. The best thing you can do is look at the past, look at those trends, look where you're heading, and just like a chart, you kind of see where you're going, and you kind of actually make an imaginary line and know where you're going to be 6 months from now. So that's why accounting and looking at reports is like getting a physical for my body. It's going to tell me how my body's doing. Well, financial reports are going to tell you how your business is doing and the things that you have to tweak and move in order to reach the goal that you want to reach.
You know, Lori, our sons, they're big history nuts, and they always say this, which is relevant. History does not repeat itself, it rhymes. And the same thing with accounting and with any data that you have from your business. It's not going to repeat, but it will rhyme. It will give you a glimpse into that future.
It's so true. And while we're on this, because I wanted to make sure we discuss this prior to the show, I was talking with them. Once again, like I said, we were introduced going through the loan process. The loan process requires a lot of documentation. And guys, you know, this is another soapbox thing I say. If you don't have your documents in order, if you don't have a good accountant, you don't have a good lawyer setting things up, it will be a nightmare in trying to apply for any types of government loans or any loans in general. Well, during the conversation, I was like, okay, when were you in escrow? Okay, hold on, let me pull that up. Do you have let me get the CPA on the phone, and CPA calls right back. Guys, I was amazed at how thorough they understood or had access to their documentation and access to their CPA, who communicated and got back to them immediately. I don't see this a lot in small companies, and it's to the downfall. Please comment on what you have done to set up your legal and financial and your accounting structure. Just what was your views, because you have your stuff together.
Well, I mean, it's the foundation. And as you mentioned, without that foundation, it's very difficult, almost impossible to obtain any kind of loans for that matter, regardless if it's traditionally or through government grants. You know, I met a lovely woman not long ago. She owns a vegan restaurant, and they've been in business for 20, 30 plus years. And we were having this conversation about loans and whatnot. And I said, you know what, you should apply for an SBA loan. You really need it. And she says, you know what, when I took the restaurant over from my mom, I realized that the taxes are not proper. They were taking a lot of money under the table, as they call it. So there's really no paper trail. And it's hurting me a lot right now. And that's when I realized, holy moly, what my husband has created for the company is priceless.
And organizing is not that difficult. Like you said, it's common sense. If you're going to organize your money, organize it on simple money coming in, money going out. Yeah. 2 separate cabinets. I mean, super easy. Then we actually have a 4-drawer cabinet, money in, money out, legal stuff in another one.
Yeah.
And taxes and
I saw that cabinet because you went to it every time I asked a question.
That's basically for a small business. That's all you need.
Yeah.
That's all you need. And for good record keeping, just have folders organized by month on money in and money out. Mm-hmm. And on your contracts, have contracts on one, and have taxes and any legal insurance, things like that, have it on another one, under key, of course. And that's basically all you need outside from HR, which HR is a different monster, of course. But if you organize your things like that, I mean, you will find anything quickly. And to have access to your CPA, priceless. Another key is you have to invest. Because if you don't give them money, you just your taxes once a year, that's the level of service you're going to get.
It is.
we compare payroll services, and he is very competitive. So it will cost me the same to do payroll with him than to do it with QuickBooks. Well, if I do it with QuickBooks, what do I get? Nothing. If I do it with the
Nothing.
CPA, what do we get? A relationship that we are in communicating on a weekly, bi-weekly basis. For any forms that
Everything.
we need, they fill them up for us. So that's our investing. If I'm going to spend the same amount of money and get the same results, I would rather strategically funnel that money to my CPA
A person.
so that when I need them, hey, this is a good customer. He's giving me more business. Well, guess what? When we call someone, he's gonna call, he's gonna respond to that on the other
And
side.
he did. And you know, the other thing is you're investing in a person with an expertise and professionalism. The other one, you're investing in a technology with a bunch of, you know, support people that don't even usually have a background. Okay, first of all, I'm going to beg you guys to come back on. I'm going to beg you guys because we're at the hour and I want to talk forever. I got questions people asked I didn't get to. There was so much. So I'm going to beg you guys to come back on. This is one of the most beautiful. I knew when I woke up this morning it was going to be a great day. So what I want to do though is run a little bit over and say any last words for the audience that you would like to impart with.
Yes, I would love for everyone to take the time to determine what archetype they are. For example, this is something that I also learned in my education is there's only 3 types of people in a business. You have the entrepreneur, you have the creative, and you have a leader. That doesn't mean that you're not a leader or you're not a creative, but one is more dominant than the other. When I first started the company, I thought I had to be the creative and I thought that I had to be the leader, the CEO, and nothing was gonna dethrone me from that. But guess what? My leadership within this kind of business is not what the business needs. So when I learned that, I realized, oh, wait a minute. I'm primarily the entrepreneur. I don't see obstacles in a traditional way. I see opportunities. Then I'm a creative, and then I'm the leadership type. And then Plinio, he's the leadership type. He's a creative. And then lastly, the entrepreneur, very minimal risk, but
Yeah,
that's
very
what you
conservative.
need
Yeah.
as a CEO. So learning which archetype you are is highly important to the survival of your business.
Yeah, and my worst and this is based on experience throughout my life, is if you want to build a skyscraper, you need to have a good foundation.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
don't start working on the foundation, everything that you put on top is like castles on the sand. The first wave is going to destroy them. So don't take things for granted. Even the little details like organizing your paperwork, like organizing your finances, like educating yourself, even if that's gonna put on hold your business dream for another 6 months or a year, is well worth it. Just make sure you have a good foundation. The second one is you're gonna be basically the leader or the driving this ship on waters, and sometimes the waters are gonna be calm, sometimes out of nowhere there's gonna be a storm. Has nothing to do with your ship. It's just a recession, a COVID, things like that. Has nothing to do with you. But if you don't know how to navigate, your ship is gonna sink. And you need to make sure that you have, like she said, I'm very conservative. Make sure that you're conservative on how you invest your money, on how you expand, things like that. Baby steps sometimes are better. That doesn't mean you don't want to reach the goal, but at least that's going to give you that solid foundation where you can build things on top. And that's, to me, that's the recipe for success.
For sure.
You know, I'm overwhelmed by the amount of wisdom. I think there's a lot of talk and chatter going on, but there's not a lot of wisdom being spoken in today's world. And you guys have spoke nothing but wisdom throughout this whole interview. Thank you so much. You're remarkable. I know we're going to hear wonderful things from the company going forward. Cannot wait for the Univision. They are so lucky to have you on their show, and I hope that you will still be in the non-starlight enough to come back while you're still small and be on my show again.
For
Because
you, anything.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Any day, any
Lori is the real deal here. And I know everyone knows that, but still, she's the real deal. We're very grateful to her and for her. Yes.
Oh, thank you so much.
Team. It takes a team, Lori.
It does take a team. It does take a team. Well, I'm going to bring Sadie back. Sadie, was this not incredible? We knew we were going to have an incredible discussion today.
I mean, I was just enthralled. I mean, I just got to go with that one where I mean, oh my God, like they got to come back, Lori. That's all I know.
I know. By the way, as I announce and say goodbye to everybody, you guys take a look at the chat. You have gotten so many wonderful comments in the chat. Please take a minute and look at these fantastic things. People are thanking you and made great comments throughout. I look at them every once in a while, but it's been the audience has loved it. So we are out of time. So I have to say once again, thank you so much. I mean, this has just been you could take each slice of this, put it on the biggest bookshelf in the world, say this is the best book for entrepreneurship. And I can tell you from my, what, 30 some years now, going on over 30 of being a business consultant, I have not heard such wisdom from any Harvard written books that I have read. This has been just, if you guys just follow these recipes, you will create success. But anyway, I got to end it there. So to my frequent flyers that are here every single week, I always do a shout out to you. I see you guys in the chat. I love it that you're here with me. Thank you so much. If you were new, you got to come back. And guys, if you want, please go to the YouTube, watch the show again and again, take notes on it. And thank you guys for saying what I say all the time, because I feel like I'm a soapbox, always saying, you got to know your profit. And they're like, okay, Lori, whatever. And I got some backing now. I got some backing on it. Well, I got to say goodbye to everybody. Thank you again, and see everybody next week on Small Biz Talk with your host, Lori Williams. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank
Lori. See you soon.
Bye.
All righty, guys. So I'm going to hang out with you guys for a bit because I know we were totally just riveted by the show. So I dropped a lot of stuff in the chat. I dropped Marcela's information in there. So I'm going to put that back in there for you because I'm sure you guys want to go and check that out. If you want to email Lori, I put that there in for you as well. So let's get that, guys, going. I know that the financial literacy was coming up. So like I said, I'm just going to re-put this in here. Don't worry. You guys are going to be able to click on everything because I know, the copy and paste, you're watching the show. So we just want to make sure that you have everything that you could possibly need. If there's a particular link that you need, please let me know so I can get that out to you. So let me put Lori's email address in here for you again today. Okay, that little guy is going over there. And then if you just want to know, let's see a little bit about the SBDC, because thank you to the SBDC. That is why we are here. So if you're not a client, sign up, because as you can obviously see, that is how you get these one-on-one business advising appointments, and you can have an awesome business advisor just like Lori. So I'm going to put myself on mute. Let me know if there's any links that you need in particular, but I think I just, because there was so much activity in the chat. So I was like, okay, I'm like, oh, everything's going to get lost in there. So I just wanted to I dropped that in there at the end, because I know that's when we do the wrap up. Yeah, let me put the business one for you again. They actually have they have a couple of collections. So this is their 3 websites. So this is all the information for the business. So you can see, we just got all the different companies, the office phone numbers, and I put everything together. So that's actually 3 links right there. So it's Majestic Bliss, let me see, the soaps, it says favorites landing page, and then there's Vida by Marcela. So it's 3 links. So just click on each one and they'll just launch. So that's why I leave the Zoom open afterwards, because once I close this down, the thing will go down. But don't worry, just click, 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 register, check it out, and then they'll be on your browser permanently. So like I said, no rush, no rush. I'm going to be hanging out for a few. So just scroll, link away, and we're here. All right. Let me know if you need anything else. Okay.